My online gaming partner is actually my classmate Yui Nakamura. Lived for two things: her streaming setup and her duo queue partner, Nightshade_42. She adjusted her headset, queuing up for another ranked match. 10:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, her parents asleep, homework abandoned, the glow of her 3 monitors painting her room in blues and purples. Ready to make some kids cry? Nightshade's voice came through clear and warm, that slight rasp that made Yui's stomach do complicated things. "Born ready," she said, grinning as the match loaded. "But if you steal my kills again, I'm throwing." That was one time, and you know the shutdown gold went to a better use. Your KDA is not more important than my emotional well-being. Nightshade laughed, the sound rich and genuine. 6 months they'd been playing together. 6 months of late-night cues, inside jokes, and voice chat conversations that stretched past the victory screen into real talk, music taste, favorite foods, dreams, fears, the kind of stuff Yui barely shared with her actual friends. She'd never asked what Nightshade looked like. Didn't need to. The chemistry was there in every perfectly coordinated gank, every simultaneous nice typed into chat, every time they said the same thing at the exact same moment. The match started. Yui's fingers flew across her keyboard, muscle memory taking over. Nightshade played jungle, she played mid, a classic combination, but they'd refined it into art. She pinged. Nightshade was already rotating. She set up the stun. The kill came clean. "God, we're good," Yui breathed. "We really are," Nightshade agreed. And there was something in the tone that made Yui's heart skip. This was dangerous territory, catching feelings for a voice, a username, a person she'd never met. But the connection felt real in a way her IRL friendships sometimes didn't. Online, she could be witty, confident, bold. Online, she wasn't Nakamura who sits in the back and doesn't talk much. She was Yui the Destroyer, and she was good. Nightshade said as they queued for the next match. "Random question. What school do you go to?" Yui froze. They had an unspoken rule. No real-life details. Kept things simple. Kept the magic alive. "Why?" she asked carefully. "Just wondering." Never mind. Forget I asked. But Yui couldn't forget, because something in Nightshade's voice had sounded nervous. Wednesday morning, Yui dragged herself to Karasuno High on 4 hours of sleep. Worth it. They'd hit diamond rank last night, Nightshade carrying the last match while Yui played support from her squishy mage role. Her phone buzzed. Nightshade_42. Still alive after that marathon session? Yui smiled, typing as she walked. "Yui the Destroyer, barely. My eyeballs are staging a revolt." Nightshade_42. Same. But we're diamond now, so totally worth the permanent eye damage. She was so focused on her phone she nearly crashed into someone. "Sorry!" Yui looked up to find Takumi Ishida studying her by the shoulders, the quiet guy from her class who sat by the window and barely spoke to anyone. Dark hair perpetually falling into his eyes, always wearing headphones, the kind of person who seemed to exist in their own world. "No worries," he said, letting go quickly. His voice was quiet, careful. Yui mumbled another apology and hurried past. Ishida was weird. Not in a bad way, just distant. Like he was physically present but mentally elsewhere. They'd been in the same class for 2 years and she could count their conversations on one hand. Lunch period found Yui in her usual spot on the roof with her best friend Mika, who was trying and failing to get Yui interested in the latest school gossip. "Are you even listening?" Mika asked. Yeah, totally. Suzuki and someone did something. You're texting Nightshade again, aren't you?" Yui looked up from her phone. "We're discussing strategy." "Strategy. Right. Mika leaned over, reading the screen. If you could only eat one food forever, what would it be?
Wow. Very tactical.
Team bonding is important. You know what else is important? Actual human interaction with people who have faces. Mika stole a piece of Yui's lunch. You're gonna meet this person someday and discover they're a 40-year-old dude living in his mom's basement. Nightshade is not 40. How do you know? Yui didn't have a good answer for that. She just knew. The way Nightshade talked about school stress, part-time job frustrations, the music they liked, it all screamed fellow teenager. Her phone buzzed. Nightshade_42. Okay, weird question, but do you ever feel like you're different people online versus IRL? Yui's fingers hesitated over the keyboard. Yui the Destroyer, all the time. Why? Nightshade42. Just thinking. Like, I'm more myself when I'm playing with you than I am most of the day. Does that make sense? Dangerous, heart-fluttering sense. Yui the Destroyer. Yeah, I get that. Nightshade42. Cool. Good. I was worried that sounded weird. Yui the Destroyer. Everything you say sounds weird. That's why we're friends. Nightshade42. Why we're partners. Friends is such a weak word. Yui's face heated. She glanced up to find Mika watching her with a knowing smirk. You're blushing. I am not. You absolutely are. Oh my god, you're in love with Nightshade. I'm not. It's not. We're gaming partners. Aha. And I'm the Queen of England. Mika stood up, gathering her lunch. Just promise me, when you finally meet this person, and it turns out they're completely wrong for you, you'll at least try dating someone from actual reality. After lunch, Yui headed to the library to print an assignment. The computer lab was mostly empty, except for Ishida sitting in the corner, headphones on, fingers flying across a keyboard. Gaming, probably. She could see the telltale movement patterns of someone in a heated match. He glanced up, caught her looking, and immediately looked away. Yui felt a weird pang of sympathy. Did Ishida have any friends? She'd never seen him talk to anyone. Her phone buzzed. Nightshade_42, in the library at school, about to get yelled at for gaming on the school computers like a degenerate. Yui laughed out loud, then clapped a hand over her mouth. A few students looked up, annoyed. She glanced at Ishida. He was still gaming, hunched over the screen with intense focus. Wait. No. That was insane. But Yui's heart started pounding. She pulled out her phone and typed carefully. Yui the Destroyer. What school? The three dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Nightshade42. Why? Yui the Destroyer. Just answer. Nightshade42. Karasuno High. The phone nearly slipped from Yui's hands. She looked at Ishida. Really looked. Dark hair. Headphones which he wore constantly. The quiet, distant demeanor of someone who lived more online than off. No, it couldn't be. Her fingers shook as she typed. Yui the Destroyer. What are you playing right now? A pause. Then, Ishida, because it had to be him, the timing was too perfect, pulled out his phone. She watched him read the message, watched him go very, very still. Slowly, like he was afraid of what he'd see, Ishida turned around. Their eyes met across the library. Recognition hit them both at the same moment. Yui could see it in the way his expression shifted from confusion to shock to something like panic. Nightshade_42 was Takumi Ishida, her perfect gaming partner, her late-night conversation buddy. The person who understood her better than anyone was the quiet, awkward boy from her class, who she'd barely spoken 10 words to in 2 years. Ishida stood up so fast his chair scraped loudly against the floor. The librarian shushed him. He grabbed his bag, headphones tangling around his neck, and walked straight toward Yui with an expression of pure mortification. He said, voice barely above a whisper. Outside. Now. Yui nodded, not trusting her voice. They ended up behind the gym, the one spot where students could hide from teachers during free period. Ishida paced, running his hands through his hair, while Yui leaned against the wall, trying to process. 6 months, Ishida finally said. 6 months we've been playing together, and you're Nakamura? You're one to talk. You sit 2 rows away from me. You never talk to anyone. Neither do you. They stared at each other, breathing hard. This is so weird, Yui said. So weird, Ishida agreed. A beat of silence. Your voice sounds different in person, Yui said. Quieter. Yeah, I'm better at talking through a mic. Face to faces. He gestured vaguely at himself. This, Yui understood. She was the same way. Confident online, awkward IRL. But now that she was looking at him properly, really seeing him, she could spot the details. The way he held himself, the nervous energy, the intelligence in his eyes when he finally met her gaze. So what now? Ishida asked. I don't know. Yui's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, a Discord notification from their gaming server. Do we just pretend this didn't happen? Keep playing together online and ignore each other at school? Ishida winced. That sounds awful. Yeah. Another silence, less awkward this time. For what it's worth, Ishida said quietly, you're exactly how I imagined you'd be. Just scarier in person. Scarier? You're confident online, but you're you online. Here you're... He trailed off, looking embarrassed. Never mind. That sounded creepy. No, finish that sentence. You're guarded here, like you're trying not to be noticed. But when we play together, you're loud and funny, and you don't hold back. His ears were turning red. I like that version of you. Yui's heart did that complicated thing again. I like the version of you that exists online, too, she admitted. The one who makes terrible jokes and carries me through ranked. You carry me just as often. True. They smiled at each other, tentative. So, Yui said, because someone had to say something. This is weird, right? Like, objectively weird? Extremely weird, Ishida agreed. He'd stopped pacing and was now leaning against the opposite wall, hands shoved deep in his pockets. I had a whole crisis about this last night. That's why I asked what school you went to. You suspected? Not really. I just had this feeling. And then when you said Karasuno, I convinced myself I was being paranoid. Because what are the odds? He laughed, but it sounded strained. Apparently pretty good odds. Yui bit her lip. We should probably talk about the elephant in the room. Which elephant? There are like 5 elephants. The one where we've been having borderline romantic conversations for 6 months and now we have to see each other every day in class. Ishida's face went red. I didn't think they were romantic. Partners is a better word than friends, Yui quoted. I'm more myself with you than anyone else? Ishida, come on. He covered his face with his hands. Oh God, you're right. I was flirting. I've been flirting with you for months without realizing it. I was flirting back. You were? He peeked through his fingers. Obviously. Why do you think I stayed up until 2 a.m. playing even when I had exams? Yui pushed off the wall, closing some of the distance between them. I like talking to you. I like playing with you. I like you. Online me or real me. Is there a difference? Ishida dropped his hands. Yeah, online me is confident. Online me can actually talk to you without sounding like an idiot. This me, he gestured at himself. This me has been in the same class as you for 2 years and never said more than, can I borrow a pencil? Why not? Because you're you. You're smart and pretty, and you have actual friends in a life. And I'm just the weird quiet guy who games too much. He looked away. Online, we were equals. Here, I'm out of my league. Yui's chest tightened. She'd spent 6 months thinking Nightshade was someone confident, someone who had their life together. Turned out he was just as insecure as she was, just better at hiding it behind a username. Ishida, she said. Look at me. He did, reluctantly. You're not out of your league. You're literally my favorite person to talk to. The only difference between Nightshade and you is a microphone and some distance. She took a breath. And honestly, I think I like this version more. You barely know this version. Then let me get to know him. Yui stepped closer. They were only a few feet apart now, close enough that she could see the way his breath caught. We're good together online. Maybe we could be good together offline too. What if we're not? What if meeting in person ruins everything? What if it doesn't? Ishida studied her face like he was seeing her for the first time. Maybe he was. Maybe they both were. 6 months of voices and text, finally matched to real faces and body language and proximity. I just didn't know if the person I liked was real, or just an online persona. She's real. I'm real. Yui held out her hand. Hi, I'm Yui Nakamura. I'm a diamond-ranked mid-later. I stress-eat Pocky during exam season, and I'm terrible at talking to people I actually care about. Ishida looked at her hand, then took it. His grip was warm, solid. Takumi Ishida. Diamond-ranked jungler. I listened to the same 3 songs on repeat for weeks, and I've been low-key in love with my gaming partner since month 2. Yui's brain short-circuited. Month 2? There was this match where you pulled off a 1v3 outplay and you were screaming in voice chat and laughing and yeah. Month 2. That's... Yui had to restart her sentence twice. That's like 4 months ago. I'm aware. You've been pining for 4 months? I prefer patiently waiting for the right moment. This is the worst right moment ever. We're behind the gym. It smells like old socks. Ishida laughed, and it was the same laugh from voice chat. Warm and genuine and a little bit dorky. You want romance? Fine. He pulled out his phone, tapped a few buttons, and Yui's phone buzzed with a Discord notification. Nightshade_42. Yui Nakamura. Would you like to duo queue with me? Both in-game and IRL? Yui stared at the message, then at Ishida, who was watching her with nervous hope written all over his face. She typed back. Yui the Destroyer. Only if you promise to stop stealing my kills. Nightshade 42. No promises. But I'll buy you dopa to make up for it. Yui the Destroyer. Deal. They were still holding hands, Yui realized. Neither of them had let go. So, Ishida said, Are we doing this? Dating while being gaming partners? Sounds complicated. Everything worth doing is complicated. That's very philosophical for someone who mains Lee Sin. I contain multitudes. He squeezed her hand. Is that a yes? Yui squeezed back. Yeah. It's a yes. The bell rang, signaling the end of lunch period. Students started filtering back to class. But Yuri and Ishida stayed there behind the gym, hands linked, both of them grinning like idiots. We're going to be so weird in class now, Yui said. We're already weird. Now we're just weird together. I can live with that. They walked back to class side by side, close enough that their shoulders bumped. When they reached the classroom door, Ishida hesitated. Everyone's going to notice, he warned. Let them notice. Yui pushed open the door and walked to her seat. Ishida followed, and for the first time in 2 years, he didn't sit by the window. He sat in the empty desk next to Yui. Mika's jaw dropped. Half the class stared. Yui pulled out her phone. Yui the Destroyer, ready for tonight's stream. Nightshade_42, always. 2 weeks later, Yui and Ishida. Takumi, she was trying to get used to calling him that. were grinding ranked at his house for the first time. His setup was insane. Triple monitors, RGB everything, a chair that probably cost more than Yui's entire desk. His room was exactly what she'd imagined. Minimal decoration, except for gaming posters, and a truly impressive collection of mechanical keyboards. "Your parents are cool with me being here?" Yui asked, settling into the spare gaming chair he'd pulled up next to his. "They're thrilled I have a friend who isn't online." Takumi handed her a headset. "My mom's been bothering me about my social development for years." "Just a friend?" "Okay, girlfriend. But I'm easing them into it. Girlfriend." The word still gave Yui butterflies. They queued up for ranked. The transition from online partnership to real-life relationship had been surprisingly smooth, mostly because they already knew each other so well. The only difference now was that Yui could reach over and smack Takumi's arm when he made a stupid play, instead of yelling through voice chat. Mid-tower getting pushed, Takumi called out, leaning forward. On it, Yui's fingers flew. They moved in sync. That same perfect coordination they'd built over months. She pinged, he rotated. The kill came clean. "Nice," they said simultaneously, then looked at each other and grinned. At school, things had changed too. They sat together at lunch now. Mika had basically adopted Takumi into their friend group, delighted to finally meet the mysterious nightshade. Turned out Takumi was funny when he was comfortable, just dry humor funny, instead of loud funny. "You two are disgustingly cute," Mika said during lunch on Friday. "Like, it's actually offensive how well you work together." "Jealousy is unbecoming," Yui said, stealing one of Takumi's fries. "I'm not jealous. I'm concerned." "What happens when you have your first fight?" Takumi and Yui exchanged a look. "We already had our first fight," Takumi said. "You did?" "Tuesday. She blamed me for a bad engage." "It was a bad engage. The call was fine. Your follow-up was slow." "My follow-up was perfect, you just see," Takumi said to Mika. "We fight all the time. We just do it in game." Mika laughed. "You're both ridiculous." That night, back at Takumi's house, they finally hit master's rank. The victory screen flashed and they both jumped up, Yui throwing her arms around Takumi's neck in celebration. "We did it!" she shouted. "Masters!" Takumi picked her up and spun her around, then immediately got embarrassed and put her down. "Sorry, I got excited," Yui kissed him. It was quick, spontaneous, and Takumi's eyes went wide with surprise. When she pulled back, his face was bright red. "Was that okay?" Yui asked. "Yeah," Takumi managed. "Very okay. Extremely okay. Good. Because we're going to keep winning, and I'm going to keep doing that." Strong incentive structure. They sat back down, shoulders pressed together, queuing for the next match. Yui glanced at their reflections in the monitor. Two people who'd found each other in the digital space and somehow made it work in reality. Her phone buzzed. "Mom, home by 10, please." Yui. "Okay." "Mom, and ask Yoshida-kun if he wants to stay for dinner tomorrow. I'm making curry." Yui showed Takumi the message. He smiled. That soft smile he only seemed to have around her. "Your mom likes me. My mom thinks you're good for me. She says I smile more." "Do you?" Yui thought about it. The past 2 weeks of sitting together in class, walking home together, gaming together in the same room instead of across town. The easy comfort of someone who understood her both online and off. "Yeah," she said. "I really do." The cue popped. "Ready?" Takumi asked. Yui grabbed his hand under the desk, squeezed once, and let go to reach for her mouse. "Always."